everybody to turn your phones to silence, please. Everybody, pay attention to silence. Silence your phones. Hi. How are you?
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seat. We are expecting members of Congress joining us shortly. We are going to be starting the program as the Congress is in session, and we are expecting members to join us very shortly. And now we have Congressman John Molinar from Michigan. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to, first of all, this morning, welcome all of you today on this congressional briefing. Of course, we're also honoring the Iranian New Year's Nowruz. As you can see, the display of the Nowruz. And even though this year has been a difficult year for the Iranian people, whether it was the massacres that was committed by the regime in the streets that led to killing of thousands, or what we are dealing with today in terms of the war and the destruction that the Iranian people are facing. But it is important for us to be here, and it's important for us to be with our members of Congress to discuss where Iran is heading and how we are going to really define a roadmap that would deliver democracy, freedom, and a non-nuclear secular republic of Iran. So with that, it is my great pleasure to introduce our first member of Congress, a very dear friend. Good to see you, Congressman. Congressman John Molinar from Michigan. Please welcome Congressman Molinar.
Well, thank you very much, and it's wonderful to see you all today, and just appreciate the opportunities I've had to really learn from friends and to hear and get your perspective, and I'm just grateful for that. You know, obviously, it's a challenging time for the people of Iran. I hear from friends here in the United States who have loved ones who have so much connection with Iran and such hopes for the future. And I join you in those hopes. My hope is that the people of Iran will experience the freedoms that we enjoy here in the United States. Iran has tremendous potential, which has really been discouraged these last 47 years, and I'm hopeful for the future. And I know that the people of Iran here who have roots in Iran, who live in the United States, have a deep passion to see those dreams realized as well. And I love the fact that we're seeing a vision and ideas for the future, and to me it's important that we put those ideas out there that people have a chance to digest and really collectively think about the future of Iran and what each of us can do to help make that a reality. And so as a member of Congress, I confess I've never been to Iran, so my connection is really through friends who I've met who have been willing to share their time educating me and bringing me along to understand a hopeful future for Iran. So I'm grateful to be here, and thank you for joining us today. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Congressman John Molinar. As I said, it's really important for us to think about what the future holds for Iran. I think when it comes to the Iranian people, when it comes to the region, the issue before us is simply not a question of the opposition, but it is a question of the future. Opposition to the dictatorship has deep roots within the Iranian society. It has gone across multiple generations, and our message is very clear. Our message is that the future will be decided by the people of Iran, not by foreign powers. And the message of the Iranian resistance is also that there is already a very clear roadmap for change. There's already a roadmap for transition, and a provisional government that was announced by Maryam Rajavi, the president-elect of the National Council of Resistance of Iran, really explains the details of the provisional government and how its sole purpose is not to monopolize the power, but it is to transfer the sovereignty to the people of Iran. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very important point, because at this point there is a lot of discussion about what does the future hold. There is a lot of discussion about who can lead Iran after the fall of this regime. But what I would beg you to pay attention to is pay attention to the voices that are committing to transfer the sovereignty to the people of Iran as soon as possible. That is why the NCRI's provisional government announcement actually stands out, not just among the Iranian community, this organized Iranian community that we have, the leadership and representative joining us today, but also inside of Iran. For too long, the people of Iran have experienced dictatorship. For too long, the choice of self-governance was taken away from them. And this is the moment. This is the moment where the NCRI has been ready, has been working for this very moment, so that it is ready to step in and ensure that there is no vacuum of power, ready to step in to ensure that there is going to be an election, free and fair election, within 6 months. Within 6 months, where the people of Iran can actually decide their own representatives, and within that election, the representatives of the Iranian people will actually draw up Iran's new constitution. So this is why the NCRI's plan stands out with compared to anyone that's out there to either intentionally muddy the water or unintentionally thinking that it is only the foreign wars and the bombs and the missiles that's going to bring democracy to Iran. So I think I was really compelled to hear some of the remarks by Mr. Mohammad Mohaddis, the chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee of the National Council of Resistance of Iran, in his interview on March 25th, where he plainly said the position of the NCRI. In his view, he said, we are not asking for foreign troops, we're not asking for money, we are not asking for weapons, but what we are asking for is political recognition of the Iranian people's right to change this regime themselves. This is the differentiating factor. Absolutely. This is the differentiating factor. Now, again, the provisional government, as I said, it is a bridge. It is a bridge and not an end state. This is another important differentiating factor with compared to others who claim that they have this grandiose plan that they just draw up, by the way, in recent months, and would assure them 3 years, which can also be extended to 5 years, and still everything would run through single person. So going from an opposition that is personality-centric versus an opposition that is value-based centric, where the legitimacy lands with the sovereignty of the Iranian people and transfer of power to the Iranian people. That is what the people of Iran want, and that is why we're here today. The other point I'd like to raise is this transitional mechanism that the NCRI has presented. As I mentioned, it does prevent a power vacuum. And it really is designed to transfer the power to the people of Iran. And more importantly, it is not seeking a permanent authority. Maryam Rajavi, the president-elect of the National Council of Resistance of Iran, and you see her 10-point plan here in this banner, has been very clear on what her vision is for the future of Iran. As she outlined, the future of Iran should be a secular government. The future of Iran should be a republic. The future of Iran should be non-nuclear. A future of Iran that should be in peaceful coexisting with its neighbor. A future of Iran that would end execution and abolish death penalty. A future of Iran that stands for a modern judicial system, a future of Iran that respects all international treaties and covenants, future of Iran that believes in free market economy, future of Iran that recognizes, and this is very important for the people of Iran, the beautiful diversity of the Iranian nationalities, different religious minorities in Iran, their rights, they will have equal citizenship rights just as anyone else. This is the vision that we support for the future of Iran, and this is the vision that really will secure a sovereignty for the people of Iran and remove any future threat of restoration of dictatorship, whether it is in the form of monarchy or it's in the form of the ayatollahs and molocracy. That is what the people of Iran have been fighting for more than 60 years. You have to remember the multi-generational resistance for freedom in Iran began before the 1979 revolution with the main opposition group that is a member of the National Council of Resistance of Iran, the MEK. They fought against the monarchy, the Shah's government and his dictatorship, and they continue to fight today against the theocracy. Yes, Iran did have a revolution, which was a popular uprising against the Shah and rejection of the monarchy. And yes, unfortunately, that revolution was hijacked. It was hijacked by the Ayatollahs. But the Iranian people are not going to make that mistake again. That's why there is clarity. There's clarity on what the vision holds. There is lessons learned from the previous uprisings and revolution in Iran's history, and those are what really should define the future for the people of Iran. So again, going back to the National Council of Resistance of Iran and looking at its history, what really stands out is their plan. This is a council that actually has 25 active committees that has been working, as I said, for this moment, working for this moment where the world community has finally come to realize this regime has to end. Unfortunately, some in the international community still believe this regime can end with foreign wars. But we have always been saying no appeasement of this regime, no talks, and no wars. There is a third option. And that third option was actually introduced by Maryam Rajabi. And this is the third option that relies on the internal domestic resistance movement. This is a third option that relies on the National Council of Resistance preparing for this moment. This is the third option that has roots within the Iranian nationalities, whether you're Kurd, Baluchi, Azeri, Turkmen, Ahwazi, Khuzestan, anywhere in Iran. And more importantly, over the last decade, this is the movement that actually has developed a network of resistance units across all 31 provinces. That is the boots on the ground. That is the Iranian boots on the ground, who are risking their lives through their campaign, through their interaction with the public, raising public awareness, organizing the protests, leading the protests, and unfortunately some of them have also faced death, arrest, torture, and execution. So, as I said, this is the credibility of a movement that stands above anyone else that claims to be the future of Iran. So as you come around and hear different discourse, different claims that the Iran of tomorrow will be a return to monarchy, I would invite you to challenge them and ask them, do you believe in a Republic of Iran? And that's where they would draw the line. They may come back and tell you, yes, I believe in secularism, separation of church and state, which is great. But in Iranian people and their memory and their experience of the previous uprising, that is not going far enough. It has to go further. Secularism, yes. Republic, yes. And of course, non-nuclear, which is what really brought the international community's attention to Iran in terms of what the future holds. So, this is what I would invite you as you come across different articles, as you come across other Iranians who are thinking about a free Iran, talk to them about why it matters. Why it matters for the future of Iran to be a republic. Why it matters for the future of Iran to be secular and for the future of Iran to be non-nuclear. So going back to the NCRI discussion. As I said, NCRI has 25 committees. NCRI has specific plans for women's rights. Why? Because women of Iran have borne the brunt of the misogyny and the atrocities that has been committed against them in the name of religion. They have faced unspeakable torture as political prisoners. They have faced unspeakable cultural violence in public and in private sphere because the government endorses and is codifying violence against women in its constitution. So for any movement to actually claim that they have roots within the Iranian society, you have to ask them, what is your plan for the Iranian women? And this is where the NCRI stands out. For them, the liberation and the emancipation and the women's rights for the NCRI, it is not a symbolic language. It's codified in its program. That's why Maryam Rajavi's program believes in complete gender equality. So when you look at NCRI's program and platform for women's rights in Iran, this is what it reads: complete equality in political, social, cultural, and economic rights, equal participation in political leadership, repeal of the compulsory veiling, freedom of choosing what to wear, freedom of who you marry and who you divorce, because these are the things that is dictated and unfortunately codified in the Iranian regime's constitution to take away the rights of women. Equal rights to legal protection and recourse before the court. You know, the Iranian regime does not account for the full testimony of women in courts. You have to have 2 women against 1 man in order to be considered as a full testimony in a court. So it is so important that we recognize the equal legal protection and recourse before the courts for both women and girls in Iran. NCRI gender platform also proposes, at least, this is really important, ladies and gentlemen, for a country like Iran that is going to recover from this misogynist regime. Their platform says at least half of the government posts and half of the parliamentarian candidates should be women. We don't even have that here in America. And this is the vision that we should be supporting. This is the vision that we should be promoting. So that is on the issue of women's rights that is codified in the platform of the National Council of Resistance of Iran. And of course, at the helm of it is Maryam Rajavi, a Muslim woman who stands against a regime that claims to be a Muslim Islamic regime, and she challenges them, saying this regime is neither Islamic or republic. They're using religion as a weapon against people. But she deeply believes in secularism. She deeply believes in protecting my rights and everyone's rights in Iran. And that's why I think her position is one of the most authoritative and valid positions when it comes to challenging the regime in Tehran. So moving on the issue of Iranian nationalities. As you know, Iran as a nation has a very large Kurdish population. We have Baluchis, we have multiple different nationalities in Iran. So looking at the NCRI's Kurdish program and platform, in their framework, this is the NCRI's framework, Iran's Kurdistan will have full autonomy within Iran's territorial integrity. The NCRI's Kurdish plan explicitly ties Kurdish autonomy to popular sovereignty and the national unity and territorial integrity. It provides for an elected Supreme Council of Kurdistan, chosen through a free and fair election. It provides specific political points for the protection of the Kurdish nationalities in Iran. This is a ratified plan and not just a vague promise, ladies and gentlemen. That is why I think the credibility stands with the NCRI's plan for the future of Iran. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce our next member of Congress, someone who has been a dear friend of our cause and our issue, particularly on the non-nuclear secular republic issue, someone who has taken multiple initiatives, leading multiple initiatives, bipartisan initiatives in U.S. Congress over the last 5 Congress on behalf of the Iranian people and their rights to a free, democratic Iran. Someone who has also met with Maryam Rajavi, spoken with Maryam Rajavi, has endorsed Maryam Rajavi's 10-point plan, and of course, someone that is near and dear to all of our hearts and has been with us through the thick and thin, even those days that our movement was blacklisted in the various congressional hearings. He would challenge the State Department, no matter if it was from the Democrat or the Republican administration. With that, I want to invite Congressman Brad Sherman from California.
Hello, I'm Brad Sherman from America's best named city, Sherman Oaks. It is a pleasure to be with you. I've been fighting for democracy in Iran for 30 years. I've seen some people come in here who were fighting for democracy in Iran for 60 years, and we have never been closer. A lot of work has been done. A lot of brave people have died in cities across Iran. And we will one day see a government in Iran that it is as great as the history of the Iranian people. Now, the folks with redistricting in California decided a few years ago, Sherman is fighting so much for democracy in Iran, we've got to give him more Iranian American constituents. So I can now say that I represent more of Tehran-Angeles than anyone else, that I have more Iranian Americans in my district than any other member of Congress. But whether I just represented the San Fernando Valley or whether they added parts of West Los Angeles, my dedication to a secular, democratic democracy in Iran continues. And we will keep working on it till it happens. Now, what have we seen in the last few months? We witnessed the clearest example that this regime cannot be reformed and it needs to be replaced. In January, Islamic Republic forces fired indiscriminately into crowds, murdering 30,000 innocent protesters simply for expressing their views. So many protesters filled the hospitals that one surgeon in Tehran said for almost 96 hours straight, without interruptions, without sleep, without even closing our eyes for a moment, we were operating, we were crying, and then we were operating. And then we saw the thugs of the regime go into the hospitals and kill people in their hospital beds. Like you, I've seen the horrific images of wounded protesters. And like you, I've read the horrific accounts of the 2 nurses working in Tehran Hospital who treated wounded protesters during the nationwide uprising in January, and as punishment, they were tortured and sexually assaulted by the agents of the Islamic Republic. But this isn't new. We saw this clear back at the beginning of the regime and, of course, in 1988, where the Islamic Republic then massacred 30,000 dissidents, first raping and torturing. Many people in this room had relatives who died in that mass atrocity. The mass atrocities in Iran need to end. Despite the absolute brutality that the Iranian people have endured, they continue to bravely fight for freedom. Ultimately, the future of Iran will be in the hands of the Iranian people. But we on the outside of Iran need to do as much as we can. That is why I'm the chief Democrat on House Resolution 166, expressing support of the Iranian people for their desires for a democratic, secular, non-nuclear Republic of Iran, and condemning the Iranian regime's regional proxy wars and internal suppression. I know you'll be hearing later from my colleague Tom McClintock, and he and I have been pushing this together since we led together HRES 100 in the last Congress, but you know I've been doing this for 30 years. Now, over a decade ago, I authored legislation to impose sanctions on the leaders of this regime, and now I've joined Dave Min and Claudia Tenney to introduce the Freedom Act, which would be designed to bypass the Islamic Republic's internet blackouts, because what is the most important, what's the most powerful tool America has? You think it's the aircraft carrier group. No, our number one tool is the truth. And it is the truth that needs to get into Iran. We have to use the internet, and we have to go back to old-fashioned. We need to be broadcasting in Farsi. We saw the internet during the Massa protests, and we worked then to get the licenses for Starlink, so that although we are sanctioning Iran, we're certainly licensing those who would provide the internet to the Iranian people. And we have to do more. We have to do everything we can to provide funds, perhaps covertly, to the groups that are fighting for freedom in Iran. It won't be easy. This regime has thugs ready to kill. But ultimately, we saw the Assad regime go like this, and we will see this regime go at a point we may not exactly predict. So next we have to make sure that our allies sanction the Islamic Republic and its Revolutionary Guard Corps. For years I've been using my position as the number 2 Democrat on the House Foreign Affairs Committee to urge the UK and the EU, Australia, India, and others to finally sanction the IRGC. And in January I joined with colleagues to lead a bipartisan effort urging the European Union to designate the IRGC and the Basij forces who gunned down innocent protesters as a terrorist organization. And lastly, well, it's not lastly, I'll keep going on for a little bit longer, but near lastly, we need a whole government strategy to take down this regime. That's why I introduced the Iran Human Rights, Internet Freedom and Accountability Act, bipartisan, comprehensive legislation to identify and freeze the assets of pro-regime oligarchs, expand uncensored internet for the Iranian people, and cut off every source of funding this regime has. The Islamic Republic has never been weaker. But when they're desperate, they kill. And then they leave. So there's Assad is living in a nice neighborhood in Moscow. He needs some neighbors. Many of these thugs will die. A few of them will live in a new neighborhood. So well over 2,000 years ago, we saw the Cyrus Cylinder, the first human rights document in world history. We see a people that deserve a government as great as their history. I've been working on this for 30 years, and I can taste it. We're almost there. Thank you for your efforts. Look forward to working with you.
Thank you so much, Congressman Sherman. Ladies and gentlemen, Congressman Sherman just shared with us the impressive leadership that has taken place in U.S. Congress for more than 5 Congress. And our next member of Congress, he is no stranger to many of us, but I want to make sure that we understand the leadership he has taken on as a person that has been standing up on the issue of democracy, freedom, human rights, and more importantly, as he connects that movement, the movement of Maryam Rajavi, the movement of the National Council of Resistance of Iran, to the very pillars of American revolution here in the United States and what we enjoy today as an American democracy. So Congressman McClintock has been with us through the thick and thin. Congressman McClintock has been the Republican leadership in Iran's resolution, including the House Resolution 166. Please welcome Congressman Tom McClintock from California.
The hour of Iran's redemption has arrived. The self-serving gang of thugs who masquerade as clerics, who've tortured and robbed and impoverished and brutalized and terrorized and slaughtered the people of Iran for the last 47 years, is now facing its long-awaited day of reckoning. Resistance groups throughout Iran are prepared to take up arms against this regime and to finish the job. But they need the full moral and material support of the United States. That must be the next and crucial step in the liberation of the Iranian people. I urge this administration to take the actions necessary to assist these resistance forces in dismantling this regime from within and replacing it with a new democratic, secular, non-nuclear government that can deliver prosperity to its people and peace to the world. And I urge the House to immediately take up and pass House Resolution 166 that is co-sponsored by a majority of the House membership, 230 Democrats and Republicans who have come together to support a vision for a free and democratic Iran. It defines a future for Iranian liberation from the shackles of theology, a future where sovereignty will be restored to the people. It will be a place where the fundamental human right to live free from a coercive state is accorded to every person regardless of their gender or religion or race. And when that future arrives in the few days ahead, it will be celebrated not in rooms like this around the world, but rather in the streets of Tehran and the town squares across all of liberated Iran. I believe that the 10-point plan put forward by the National Council of Resistance of Iran offers a credible democratic pathway for Iran's future, upholding human rights, pluralism, and the rule of law. This plan is formally endorsed in House Resolution 166 and is backed by a broad international coalition, including over 1,000 current and former parliamentarians and former senior military officials, which underscores the credibility and global support that this 10-point plan has. But before that plan can be implemented, this already crippled and withered regime must be ripped out by its roots, and that can best be done by the many resistance groups that have long been preparing for this day. Through the dark winter of the mullahs, these thousands of small cells across Iran have awaited the arrival of spring, and they now need our moral and material support to rise up and to strike. That moral support is contained in House Resolution 166, and the material support should start flowing now. It will ultimately be up to the people of Iran to decide their future democratically. Our own Declaration of Independence proclaims the self-evident truth that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of the inalienable natural rights of the people, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. That's the next step that will consummate Iran's redemption and set its new course toward a prosperous, peaceful, and happy future. These questions are rightly the province of the Iranian people, and no doubt there will be many quarrels and disagreements and compromises ahead as a new democratic government is established. But we can be confident in the outcome because it will be based on the solid foundation of one of the oldest and greatest civilizations of antiquity, animated once again by the 10-point plan to restore and protect the inalienable human rights that any just government exists to protect. Between that day and this day is the task remaining before us. American and Israeli arms have crippled this regime. Now let Iranian arms bring it to justice and fulfill the vital work of proclaiming liberty throughout all the land and unto all the inhabitants thereof. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Congressman McClintock. Ladies and gentlemen, we are so proud. We are so proud to have such a strong bipartisan support in U.S. Congress. It is my great pleasure to introduce our next member of Congress from Texas, Congressman Menifee.
I'm Christian Menifee, the new congressman from Texas's 18th Congressional District. My name may not ring much to each of you, but I know a name that does, and that is one of my predecessors, the late Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. The Congresswoman was a friend and a mentor, and I learned many things from her. But one of the things that she was adamant about, that she was public about, not just for the past few years, but for a very, very long time, was the importance of supporting democratic movements in Iran. And that means leading with courage to ensure that organic movements are supported to stop the repression that we have seen from this regime. For decades, they have targeted civilians with people who disagree with them politically, people who are just fighting for basic human rights and for an opportunity to cast their ballots in a free and fair election. So the commitment you have for me is to continue to be courageous on this issue, to support folks who are fighting for democracy in Iran, and to make sure that we are also opposing any efforts that would harm civilians in Iran, ensuring that the United States' approach is to support people on the ground and not to try to force that change on them from abroad. So I look forward to continuing a long-term relationship, to supporting you. And again, I'm Christian Menifee, your new congressman from Texas 18. God bless you.
Thank you so much. I think Texas is well represented today. It is my great pleasure to introduce our next member of Congress who has met with Maryam Rajavi, who has endorsed the 10-point plan. Ladies and gentlemen, that is none other than Congressman Weber from Texas.
Wow. We live in historic times, do we not? Isn't it about time that we got here? I tell you what, thank God for President Trump for knocking out the Iranian, what do you want to call them, idiots, tyrants. I mean, it's unbelievable what they've been doing to Iran. So listen to this. We talk about the 10-point plan. Rejection of the absolute clerical rule. Y'all good with that? You bet. Freedom of speech, freedom of plural of political parties, freedom of assembly, freedom of the press, and the internet. Dissolution of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. Man, is that a good movement. Y'all think? Come on, I got to get y'all going. The terrorist Quds Force, the plainclothes groups, the unpopular Basi, the Ministry of Intelligence, Council of the Cultural Revolution, and all of the suggestive patrols and institutions in cities, villages, schools, universities, offices, and factories. We're on the threshold of making the greatest achievement in Iran in decades and decades and decades. Can I get a witness? Come on, I want y'all in this. Hey, we've all seen it. We've all seen it. Iranians in the streets waving their own flag right alongside the American flag. That tells you everything you need to know. We're behind this movement. We're behind the 10-point plan, right? Come on. Lunch is not that close, is it? I got to get y'all woke up. This is not anti-America. These are people crying out for their God-given freedoms, highlighted in Maryam Rajavi's 10-point plan for the future of Iran. Those same freedoms that Tom just talked about that are right here in America. Let me be clear. I stand lockstep in President Trump and the decisive actions being taken right now. Operation Epic Fury sent a message to the world that they could not ignore. Strength matters. Resolve matters. Freedom matters. When America leads with clarity and purpose, we can achieve those things. Get behind our Iranian friends. Get behind those people who are standing up for freedom, risking their lives. We know how many deaths, how many people have been hung, executed, or just taken away in the dead of night, and you never know where they wind up. Here's the truth. The Iranian regime has been in business been in power and in business too long. It is time that they go. So we're right on that cusp of that happening. You know, a fellow Texan once put it pretty plainly. We're not going to let them test this again. George Bush said, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. We're not going to, I don't think the president is going to accept the Iranian regime, the current one, all their things that they think they can do and say so that they can stay in power. We don't want that to happen, right? That's right. We got a guy back there in the third pew. Absolutely. You betcha. Listen, while we talk about strength abroad, America, we also have a responsibility to be a voice for those who don't have freedom, who don't have that strength. That's why I'm so proud of our military, our fighting men and women. So proud of the president. So proud of y'all. So proud of Maryam Rajavi. We're on the cusp of a great, great change, not just in American or Iranian history, but think about this. In world history. Think about that. Yeah, you bet. You betcha. Well, I could go on and on and on about the good things that are happening. The Iranian people have made it unmistakably clear that enough is enough, right? Y'all, some of y'all are repeating my notes. Did y'all read my notes? Man. We were, you know, Americans get this. Americans understand because we were once the people that stood up to tyranny. Tom McClintock talked about that a little bit. It's our duty when government becomes oppressive to get them out of the way. And it's gone on way too long for the Iranian people. That same spirit is alive today in Iran, has been for a long time. So while their path belongs to them, we certainly have a role to play. Folks, we're going to have our work cut out for them when we finally get the murderers and the thugs and the thieves kicked out. Iran's going to need our backup, our support, and America's going to stand with Iran. Mark my words. I will continue to be a strong advocate for Iranian people right here in the Western Hemisphere. I could go on and on and on. Let me just tell you, America is on the right side of this. When we look back and historians write the books and stuff, they will know that America was on the right side of this. So let's make sure that we stay all together. I'm going to say this. God bless you. God bless Maryam Rajavi, and God bless the United States and Iran. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Congressman Weber. And on that good note, it is my great pleasure to introduce our next member of Congress, someone who has met with Maryam Rajavi, someone who has endorsed the 10-point plan. Please welcome Congresswoman Deborah Ross from North Carolina.
It is wonderful to be with you again. I'm so sorry that our good friend Beth couldn't be with us today, but she keeps me informed, as does the Iranian community, and I'm sure many of you have met my legislative director, Bardia Asefnia, who himself is the child of Iranian immigrants. So as you heard, I am a proud original co-sponsor of House Resolution 166, which outlines the 10-point plan, a roadmap for a free, secular, and democratic Iran, grounded, yes, grounded in human rights, gender equality, and the separation of religion and state. While Congress has shown bipartisan backing for the Iranian people's aspirations, we obviously know there's so much more work to be done getting rid of the regime. The Iranian people have endured decades of repression. And I have heard about it from the Iranian community in the Research Triangle area, but also from personal friends. One of my best friends in college is from a family that fled with the Shah. Tens of thousands of political prisoners and activists have been killed. From the 1988 massacre to the recent protests. Yet despite this, Iranians are courageously leading a democratic movement themselves. I think everyone in this room wants the Iranian people to live free from violence and oppression, and know that you have friends on both sides of the aisle in the U.S. Congress. Now, President Trump, I think, has not sufficiently stood up for the Iranian people in this conflict. He talked about it at the beginning, but then it all became about the oil and the Straits of Hormuz. We need to come together to support you, to provide the people with the assistance that they need to avoid unnecessary destruction of schools, property, places of worship, because the people will inherit the Iran after this conflict is over, and we need to be with you. So please know that I am mourning the Iranian lives that have already been lost, and know that I'm doing everything in my power to advocate for an end to this war in a way that the people of Iran are free and supported and have the assistance that they need to form their own new democratic regime. So, in conclusion, I know that it is very difficult to stay positive in a moment like this, but I know that you are here to work with us to support the Iranian people in pursuit of a democratic, secular, and non-nuclear Republic of Iran. Thank you so much. I wish you well.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman. Beautifully said. On both sides of the aisle, we're supporting the right policy on Iran. And with that, it is my great pleasure to introduce our next member of Congress, Congressman Tim Burchett from Tennessee.
I'll be very brief, and I'm probably the only person in this room that doesn't speak with a dadgum accent. I just want you to know that. I do come from Tennessee, and I want to thank you, and Tennesseans are pretty plain spoken, and we stand up for peace. I can remember in 1978, in my Algebra 2 class, a young man was in our class, and he was from Iran. And I quickly understood what went on over there. I watched the news, and I saw that as a young man. And on a side note, he threw some pretty incredible parties at his house. I just want to know that. But I won't go into that. I don't know if the statute of limitations is passed on all that or not. But America has a very good habit, I feel like, of standing up for people who stand up for freedom. And the people of Iran deserve freedom. You don't deserve the abuse. Look at the ladies in here and just the horrible, horrible things that have occurred over there to ladies, and how we would just find that repulsive and repugnant in this country. And people of different views being hung and drug out of their houses at night and disappear. That's just not the world that Americans are used to, and that, frankly, we would stand for. And so I agree with Mr. Javi. How do you say her name? Javi. Okay, Kelsey over there, she, another strong, powerful woman in my life, hyphenated it out for me so I would say it right. And of course, I just didn't do it right. But anyway, of course, we stand with her. And of course, her roadmap sends a clear message that we do back a transition to a republic based on the will of the people and free elections. I think we have to have that. And, no war and no appeasement change for the Iranian people. We should recognize the rights of the people and organize resistance to bring change about. And I believe that's what we're doing. And it's going to be a little rough. It's going to be a little bumpy. But I hope that the people in Iran realize that America backs their their will for freedom, and that we stay in this and we do what's right and we deliver for y'all. Y'all deserve that. And the economics back and forth don't really bother me. It's what bothers me is the people and the mistreatment of the people. And I don't think America should ever stand for that. And I hope we don't. And I hope we stay in this with y'all. And I'll be praying for your folks. I one time spoke at an AME's Island church, and I got a round of applause, and I just quit right then because I knew I wasn't going to get any better. So I'm going to quit there. So I want to thank y'all so much, and we honestly in the Christian community praise for the folks of Iran and the freedom that you all need, and that you all want to raise your kids up in a beautiful country, which I've seen. Some friends of mine were over there and showed me pictures prior to it and just how wonderful it was. It reminded me of a lot of East Tennessee, actually. And the people did too. They all talk with a funny accent, like I said, but dadgummit, they're good folks, and you deserve that right for freedom. So thank you all so much.
Thank you so much, Congressman, and how beautifully said. It is about the people of Iran and supporting the call for freedom for the people of Iran. So at this point, it's my great pleasure to invite a message from Mrs. Maryam Rajavi, President-elect of the National Council of Resistance of Iran. We have a video message from her for this event. Let's take a listen.
Honorable members of the United States Congress, distinguished guests, good day to you all. First, I would like to express my appreciation for your position in support of a sound and principled policy toward Iran. Over the past months, two major developments have taken place in Iran. The January uprising and the ongoing war that, in addition to Iran, has had deep and lasting effects on the geopolitics of the Middle East and on international relations, and will continue to do so. However, these events have already begun to answer important assumptions that for many years have shaped the political thinking of governments, major media, and policy institutions in the West, which the Iranian resistance has warned about them for decades. Among these key lessons are a policy of appeasement ultimately leads to conflict. This regime will never abandon its three pillars strategy that are nuclear weapons, ballistic missile, and proxy groups. Honorable members of the United States Congress, distinguished guests, good day to you all. First, I would like to express my appreciation for your position in support of a sound and principled policy toward Iran. Over the past months, two major developments have taken place in Iran. The January uprising and the ongoing war that, in addition to Iran, has had deep and lasting effects on the geopolitics of the Middle East and on international relations, and will continue to do so. However, these events have already begun to answer important assumptions that for many years have shaped the political thinking of governments, major media, and policy institutions in the West, which
All right, as we try to figure out the technical issue for the video, lunch is going to be served, and we will resume once the video connection is back on. So. Yes, I do invite you to come and visit. They have scenes set up here as the lunch is being brought to you at your desk. But we are expecting more members of Congress joining us.
Magnificent march of Iranians in Paris on the anniversary of the anti-monarchy revolution of the people of Iran. Demonstration in commemoration of International Women's Day. Woman, resistance, freedom. Free Iran demonstration on the 60th anniversary of the founding of the PMOI. Free Iran demonstration towards a democratic republic. New York. Magnificent march of Iranians in Paris on the anniversary of the anti-monarchy revolution of the people of Iran. demonstration in commemoration of International Women's Day. Woman, resistance, freedom. Free Iran demonstration on the 60th anniversary of the founding of the PMOI. Free Iran demonstration towards a democratic republic. New York.
All right, I'm hoping that everyone have, the lunch has been served for everybody. I think our technical issues have been resolved, so please take your seat, and we are going to be resuming the video message from Maryam Rajavi for this event. Please go ahead.
Honorable members of the United States Congress, distinguished guests, good day to you all. First, I would like to express my appreciation for your position in support of a sound and principled policy toward Iran. Over the past months, two major developments have taken place in Iran. The January uprising and the ongoing war that, in addition to Iran, has had deep and lasting effects on the geopolitics of the Middle East and on international relations, and will continue to do so. However, these events have already begun to answer important assumptions that for many years have shaped the political thinking of governments, major media, and policy institutions in the West, which the Iranian resistance has warned about them for decades. Among these key lessons are a policy of appeasement ultimately leads to conflict. This regime will never abandon its three pillars strategy that are nuclear weapons, ballistic missile, and proxy groups program. And by giving power to the Khamenei son, they have shown that they intend to continue the policies of the past 47 years without any change. The idea that the regime will collapse on its own is unrealistic, and this regime will not change with virtual activities or satellite program. To survive, the regime is willing to commit any crime, and therefore resistance against the mullah's dictatorship is the legitimate right of the Iranian people. The people of Iran seek the overthrow of the regime in its entirety. The solution to the crisis in Iran is the overthrow of the regime, which can only be achieved by the Iranian people themselves and through their organized resistance. Honorable dignitaries, these realities have been the subject of the consistent warnings that the National Council of Resistance of Iran has issued over the past 4 decades. Accordingly, we have said from the beginning that the final solution is the overthrow of this regime and that the answer lies in the hands of the Iranian people themselves. As the Declaration of Independence states, the American people were once subjected to the most barbaric and brutal acts. Yet it was the American people who freed themselves from that oppression. Today, it is also the people of Iran who will bring freedom to their country. In January of this year, the regime killed thousands of unarmed protesters in the streets and showed pictures of their bodies in black bags on its own state television. What is the response to a regime that massacres protesters? The answer lies with the Iranian people and youth, the resistance units and the Liberation Army. Units of this army carried out an attack in the early hours of February 23 against one of the regime's most important leadership centers, namely Khamenei's headquarters. In this operation, 82 members were killed or arrested. This resistance relies on the experience and commitment of the main opposition force, the People's Mujahideen Organization of Iran, that has fought against this regime for 47 years. They have promoted the culture of remaining steadfast and paying the price of freedom in Iranian society for the past several decades. Now they have turned into the focal point of hope for masses of youth who have the power and are willing to fight the IRGC. The people of Iran have succeeded in presenting a credible solution with strong historical and social support. This solution is a democratic alternative. The National Council of Resistance of Iran, this alternative rejects both the former monarchical dictatorship and the current religious tyranny. It looks toward the future instead of returning to the past or continuing the present situation. Continuing the current situation or going back to the past would mean continued oppression and poverty for the people of Iran and instability and conflict for the region. Based on its 10-point plan, the NCRI has declared a provisional government. The slogan of the Iranian resistance and the provisional government is peace and freedom. It is encouraging that a majority of members of the U.S. House of Representatives through Resolution 166 have emphasized on the 10-point plan and on the need for the establishment of a republic based on the separation of religion and state. This resolution presents a credible framework for policy toward Iran. The Iranian resistance has repeatedly declared that it does not ask for boots on the ground, money or weapons from foreign countries. However, at this critical moment, the Iranian people and resistance call for the following. First, recognizing the NCRI's provisional government to transfer sovereignty to the people of Iran. Second, offering effective technical support to ensure the Iranian people's access to internet. And third, the expulsion of agents of the regime from U.S. soil. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. As Maryam Rajavi was speaking, I was taking some notes and really connecting with some of the messages that we heard in a bipartisan voice from our members of Congress who have joined us so far, and we're expecting more members to be joining us. She spoke about the experience of the Iranian resistance, the experience of Iran's main opposition group, the MEK. She spoke about their commitment to freedom, democracy, which they have really delivered that commitment through blood, sacrifice, and their lives on the line. She spoke about promoting a culture of steadfastness. This very culture is what really has made the Iranian people resilient, have evolved no matter how the Iranian regime tried to discourage them, to maim them, to execute, kill them, and threaten them, not only inside the country, but also outside of the country. And she also talked about the MEK's presence inside Iran. So I think when we look at everything that she talked about and how she concluded with the message of hope, how she concluded with the message of encouragement, where on the flip side of it, the Iranian regime that always promotes the message of fear, the message of disempowerment of the society, and the message of terror. This is the future of Iran that we see in her 10-point plan and has a proven track record in terms of its propensity that resonate with the people inside the country. And of course, today you've seen it in a bipartisan way with our members of Congress. And I think she also talked about how she concluded on the issue of the support, which really goes back to what I was saying earlier. The Iranian people, the Iranian resistance is not looking for troops on the ground, is not looking for money, it's looking for recognition of their political presence as the future of Iran, recognition of their Iranian boots on the ground that are organized and are fighting day in and day out against the terrorist IRGC. And to Maryam Rajavi's point, she talked about the need to provide the technical support for the Iranian people to have access to internet. This is extremely important because we need to get news and we need to get information from inside the country. No matter what this regime does for the internet blackout, we need to give that access to the people of Iran and give them the way and means to communicate with the rest of the world. And then, of course, she talked about the expulsion of the Iranian agents. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, we do have Iranian agents here in America, in Washington, D.C., that are promoting the Iranian regime's agenda. It is their presence that has led to years of appeasement, to years of kicking the can down the road in favor of the Iranian regime. And of course, on the flip side of it, once you have an appeasement, the other side of it is war. And we've heard it from our members of Congress, no appeasement, no war. It is the Iranian people and their rights to overthrow this regime is what we need to recognize and what has been really supported by the bipartisan majority in U.S. Congress on House Resolution 166. So many have talked about what happens after this regime falls. Many have talked about how do we ensure that there will not be a power vacuum after this regime falls. And today you've heard it. Today you've heard it about the provisional government that Maryam Rajavi has introduced. Today you heard it from her 10-point plan vision, that this 10-point plan, actually General Jim Jones National Security Advisor to President Obama, calls it a Jeffersonian document that really embodies the future of Iran for the people of Iran. And it really places the people of Iran, no matter where they come from, or what religion they have, or what gender they have, it places the people of Iran at the center. This is what we call a value-based system for the future of Iran, not a personality-based system that we hear from Reza Pahlavi and who acts as a fake opposition for the very reason to muddy the water in favor of the regime, not in favor of the Iranian people. This is the clarity that we need to have as we think about the future of Iran. The future belongs to the Iranian people. We heard that from our members of Congress today. The future belongs to a democratic governance, a republic, a representation of Iranian people that are going to draw up a constitution that safeguards a return of monarchy and a return of theocracy. This is the future that America and U.S. Congress supports, and of course the Iranian diaspora and the leaders of the Iranian American communities that are here today support and advocate for. So going back to the topic of the Iranian resistance, you probably have heard this phrase on many occasions, but I think it is time for us to fully understand the components of the resistance. At the top, the political body that represents the Iranian resistance is the National Council of Resistance of Iran, which Maryam Rajavi is a president-elect of that council. That council was actually established in July of 1981 in Iran. And as I said earlier, it has been preparing for this moment and is ready and ready to step in to transfer the sovereignty to the people of Iran after the fall of this regime. That is at the helm of its political layer. Within this council, there are political personalities from different political views. There are different political organizations that are members of this council and really has been operating since 1981 as this coalition and almost parliament in exile. So they have the experience, they have the know-how, and they have the mechanism to deliberate, discuss, debate, and come to a consensus that would land in the favor of the Iranian people. Within this council is also the largest Iran's opposition, the Mujahideen Khalq, the MEK, the very organization that exposed Iran's nuclear threat, the very organization that exposed Iran's nefarious missile programs, the very organization that exposed Iran proxy war and its terrorist network across the globe, especially within the Middle East, and the very organization that has depth and reach across the entire Iranian society, and the very organization that has 60 years of experience in a multi-generational way fighting against two dictatorships, dictatorship of the Shah and the dictatorship of the mullahs today. MEK in the last several years has worked with the network of resistance cells, the resistance cells that Congressman McClintock was talking about, to form these extremely impressive resistance units across all 31 provinces of Iran. The MEK has supported the Iranian society to really channel their anger and opposition to this group into the route that actually lead to a democratic Iran. They have facilitated the Iranian youth, especially women, to really be able to find their place in this movement for a democratic Iran. Now, when you look at the Iranian resistance history, there was a time that this resistance movement had a national liberation army and on the borderline of Iran and Iraq that was heavily mechanized, heavily trained, and ready to fight this regime. Because, ladies and gentlemen, the NCRI came to the conclusion long time before anyone to actually to the point that this regime is not going to go peacefully. This is the regime that has to be fought, and you cannot negotiate. You cannot appease this regime? How do you appease a bullet of the IRGC and the bombs and the terrorism of IRGC with talks and negotiation? How do you fight that? You fight that with the Iranian resistance on the ground and, of course, the National Liberation Army of Iran. Now, that army, the strategy of that army endured long years of appeasement. Yes, it did lead to the disarmament of that army, but it did not diffuse its strategic value, which is what we're seeing today. Inside the country, we see the resurface and the reborning of the National Liberation Army and the armed resistance by the Iranian resistance units inside the country. This is the multi-generational aspect of this movement. So if anyone tells you that it's going to be the foreign war, this regime is going to be tough to get rid of, and you need the foreign war and the weapons from other countries to fight this regime, I would invite you to have them look into the history and study the purpose and the history of the National Liberation Army. They're strategically positioned in the borderline of Iran-Iraq war. Had we not had the appeasement years ago, they would have gone in much sooner to get rid of this dangerous regime. Had we not had the appeasement that led to their disarmament, the world would have, Middle East, the entire Middle East would have been much more peaceful and totally transformed today. But we learn from the past and we move forward with the hope, the very same hope that Maryam Rajavi just talked about. I share all of this intentionally because it is important to take the history into account. It is important to understand the components into what we refer to as the Iranian resistance. The political arm, the roots and the network across all of Iranian society, and the strategic importance of the National Liberation Army of Iran to liberate Iran from the terrorist regime and the tyrants that are ruling Iran today. So as I said, we are expecting more members of Congress. Enjoy the sweets, and I will be back to introduce our next member of Congress soon. Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to introduce our next member of Congress, an amazing leader who has spoken on the issue of freedom and democracy and women's rights in Iran, who has been supporting the House Resolution 166, has really endorsed the 10-point plan introduced by Maryam Rajabi, and that is none other than Congresswoman Val Hoyle from Oregon. Please put your hands together for Congresswoman Hoyle.
Well, hello, everyone. So thank you for your warm welcome. Every time that I come to see this group, the welcome is so genuine and so warm, and especially now where things are so difficult. And I know most of you have family members that are still in Iran. And, you know, I support the Iranian people's right to self-determination, to choose their government and not have a government be chosen for them, to democratically elect someone that will represent you. And I think we can look at the history of U.S. involvement in Iran, in imposing leaders, monarchs, on the Iranian people, and that did not work out well for the Iranian people. And I certainly would never, ever defend the actions of the previous leader, of the Ayatollah. However, I personally do not think that America bombing Iran is the way to bring about the change in government that the people have wanted. Tens of thousands of Iranians were killed because they stood up. I've spoken to women who have been held, tortured, people whose families were murdered, brutally murdered. But fundamentally, we should be listening to the Iranian people. We should be empowering the Iranian people. You know, again, as I said, we need to have a democratic transition. It's hard for me to find the words because it is my government, but I can tell you we were not notified before bombs went into Iran. Fox News was notified before I was notified as a member of Congress. And that's wrong. And so I will continue to speak out against this war that I think is unjust, is not in the best interest of the American people, but also not in the best interest of the Iranian people who have been standing up to speak out against the oppression that has been in place for a long time, whether it was the Shah or the Ayatollah. I am a strong supporter of House Resolution 166 and various war powers resolutions, meaning that if we go to war in the Constitution, Congress should make that decision, and it should not be made hastily. There's no winning a war. Nobody wins. So, again, what I support is empowering the Iranian people to democratically elect a secular government where people of all faiths can be free to practice their faith, to exercise democracy, and to have freedom to live as they are, like they did previously when there was a democratically elected leader. So, as the United States, I think we do need to take responsibility for supporting a path to democracy, a path to peace, but a path to self-determination for the Iranian people, and that doesn't mean bombing buildings with school children in them. That's not what that looks like. So, normally I come and I feel so welcome and so warm and, you know, so inspired by the bravery specifically of the Iranian women who stand up in great danger to themselves because they know their voices matter for their daughters, for the next generations to come. And that gives me hope and it fills my heart. But today, I don't have that feeling, not that I'm not inspired by them, but because the government that I am a part of, that I represent, is doing something that I think impedes all of the momentum that took place with those people who stood up for so long. So with that, I believe that a government by and for the Iranian people, only that can survive and be seen as legitimate. Again, not replacing the Ayatollah with a hand-picked monarch. Again, we did that before. It did not work well. And then, again, we should rule through democracy and a vote as opposed to through fear. But what I want to say is, I stand with you. I wish I had better answers. I wish I had something more concretely positive to say, but I care enough about this community and I know the relationship that we've built that I think you deserve that truth. And the truth is that there are a number of us in a bipartisan way that are supporting pulling back from this unnecessary, illogical, poorly thought out war. I mean, giving the Iranian regime $14 billion to buy arms to murder people is illogical. It is stunning. It is wrong. So we will continue to speak out in a bipartisan way, and what I will do is continue to reach out and be grateful for the relationship that we have built here in the United States with the Iranian diaspora. And I look forward to the day that I can go to Iran with you all to celebrate a free, democratically elected leader of Iran in a secular government that represents all Iranians and is a great partner to the United States.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman. You said it so beautifully in a bipartisan way for the people of Iran, and re-emphasized the issue of no war, no appeasement. And that is what Maryam Rajavi has been talking about all along. And that is what Maryam Rajavi is talking about on the provisional government. Congresswoman talked about really supporting the ballot box. Not return to the monarchy, not a manufactured monarchy that would be installed by a foreign power, but the ballot box. The very provisional government announcement that was made by Maryam Rajavi that would ensure within 6 months there will be a free and fair election where Iranian people can be represented through their elected representative and draw up the new constitution. So with that, it is my great pleasure to introduce our next member of Congress, someone who we've known for years and have really seen the excellent work that he's done in U.S. Congress since he's joined the Congress, and that is none other than Congressman Rob Menendez. Please welcome Congressman Menendez.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to join you. Thank you for coming to Washington. Thank you for all the work that you do in your communities across the country to uplift the voices of the Iranian American community. Thank you to so many friends who have helped shepherd me in the understanding of the issues that are important to the community, and what a moment we find ourselves in now with everything that's happened the last several weeks. And what I've said from my time in office, what I will continue to say, is that the future of Iran will be determined by the Iranian people. Their right to a free Iran, one in which they can prosper and live the lives that they've so eagerly hoped that they would one day have the opportunity to live. That future seems near. And I am eager to see what is ahead for Iran. I'm eager to see what is ahead for the Iranian community here in the United States. And just know that in everything we do moving forward, you will have my support and partnership. So thank you all so much for your friendship, and I look forward to continuing this important conversation in the weeks and months ahead.
Thank you so much, Congressman Menendez. Ladies and gentlemen, we are expecting more members of Congress. I know these are very, very busy time in the House, and but I know the Iranian sweets, which is the traditional sweets for Nowruz, have been passed out. Hope you're enjoying that. One of the things that I think is important for us to also think about is the various committees. We've talked about the presence and the importance of the National Council of Resistance of Iran, but also the very committees that form the National Council of Resistance of Iran. The NCRI has 25 committees. These committees over the years, and I'm talking about since July of 1981, have operated in the following areas. The Foreign Affairs Committee, which has been very active, engaging with UN bodies, political figures, and by the way, NCRI has offices in major capitals across the world, including Washington, D.C., but the headquarters of the NCRI is in Paris. So the Foreign Affairs Committee focuses on really helping expose the Iranian atrocities, at the same time redirect the policies that are meaningful for the people of Iran by engaging with U.S. and European leaders and parliaments. The Women's Committee, which has been a very active committee and on an annual basis holds a women's conference bringing women from all over the world on International Women's Day so that they can understand the plight of Iranian women, they can have exchange of ideas how to move forward, how to build a better future for women and girls in Iran. That committee actually maintains contacts with women inside Iran and of course abroad, and also participates in various non-governmental organization events, including UN forums and events, and produces and publishes amazing literature and research on the status of women inside Iran so that the world community can understand the types of atrocities that Iranian women face and why it is important to safeguard their rights in the future of Iran. There is a Defense and a Strategic Research Committee that also has been active with the National Council of Resistance that really monitors Iranian regime's military activities, including its nuclear weapons program, ballistic program capability, and have actually exposed Iranians' network and efforts and engagement with some of the nefarious actors in the region as they stockpile their missiles program, and have been very instrumental in exposing Iranian regime's broader hegemonic vision for the Middle East. There's also a political research committee in the NCRI which really studies the internal dynamics of the regime, the various factions within the regime, the social unrest, and the broader political development inside the country. This is the committee that was able to really put an end to any call for reform from within this regime. This is the committee that was really exposing Iranian regime's fake promises of change from within. And this is the committee that actually exposes the mafia-style governance that the Revolutionary Guards have put in place in monopolizing Iran's economy. There's Security and Anti-Terrorism Committee that obviously focuses on the counterterrorism and information about Iran's terrorist network across the globe, particularly in the Middle East. And they also focus on Ministry of Intelligence, which is like the equivalent of the former Soviet Union KGB operations, and that those influences are now have spread across not just in the media but also in the cyberspace. This is why actually Maryam Rajabi in one of the conversation concluding points talked about make sure that we expel all of the Iranian regime's lobby because they are being controlled by Iran's Ministry of Intelligence. And this committee focuses on that front a lot. And then of course, Art and Culture Committee. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have the half-seen display which marks the Iranian New Year's Nowruz. I cannot tell you how many times the Iranian regime has tried to steal this culture from the Iranian people, which, by the way, is celebrated across different nationalities within Iran and other countries in the region. This celebration of Nowruz belongs to Persians, to Kurds, to Turks, to Baluch, all of the different nationalities of Iran. So this Committee of Culture and Art has been fighting against this propaganda by the regime to dilute our culture. We celebrate our Iranian heritage. We celebrate our different nationalities. And this is the celebration of Nowruz that brings all of us together as a nation. And this committee has been instrumental in pushing back against the plot by the Iranian regime when it comes to art and culture. NCRI also has education committee. This committee focuses on the call in connection with the teachers' union inside Iran, with the students inside Iran on an annual basis. They celebrate the Student Day, which marks the resistance of the student movement that really dates back to years before and before the 1979 revolution. And of course, we have the Health Committee, which also talks about how the Iranian regime has used public health as a weapon against the people. When the pandemic hit Iran, Iran's supreme leader, who's no longer here, Khamenei, prevented the vaccine to reach the Iranian people. Iran, as a country, had one of the highest death toll because vaccine was not made available to them. And everybody, globally, everyone talked about how vaccines during the pandemic should not be a political weapon used against people, but Iranian regime did that. So, needless to say, the NCRI's Health Committee has been very instrumental in exposing the regime's plot. So at this point, we have a video that I want to share with you that gives you a perspective of not just the efforts outside of Iran, but also an insight to what's happening in the country. Let's take a look.
Dear compatriots and freedom-loving people of the world, the death of Khamenei is the death of religious despotism and the end of the regime of the absolute rule of the clergy. Now is the time to establish freedom and the sovereignty of the Iranian people. On behalf of the Iranian people's resistance, I declare the National Council of Resistance of Iran announced the provisional government to transfer sovereignty to the people of Iran based on the 10-point plan that had already been published. As the people of Iran demonstrated during the January uprising, they seek a future based on a democratic republic and reject the oppressive and dictatorial regimes of the mullahs and the Shah. I declare to the international community that only the people of Iran have the legitimacy to determine the political future of their country. The destiny of Iran is being written by the Iranian people with the blood of their courageous sons and daughters, and there is no need for foreign intervention. We have always said that we do not seek money or the presence of foreign forces on Iranian soil. Now is the time for solidarity and unity against the remnants of religious dictatorship and monarchical fascism that seek to steal the democratic revolution and the outcome of 47 years of suffering and sacrifice by the Iranian people and their courageous children. Here I call upon the patriotic personnel of the army to stand alongside the people of Iran. The Revolutionary Guard and other forces that preserve the regime must lay down their arms and surrender to the people. the National Council of Resistance of Iran, the longest lasting democratic and independent coalition in Iran's history, relying solely on the Iranian people and their resistance, has presented the Solidarity Front Plan. This plan calls on all political forces on the People's Front who are committed to the overthrow of religious despotism and the establishment of a democratic republic based on the separation of religion and state, to act in unity and solidarity at this sensitive time despite their differences. Based on the NCRI program, after the fall of the regime, the provisional government is obliged to hold free and fair elections within 6 months for the formation of a constituent assembly and a national legislative body. Subsequently, power will be handed over to the newly elected representatives of the people, who will assume responsibility for governing the country and drafting the new constitution. Once again, I emphasize that the National Council of Resistance and the provisional government are not seeking power, but rather the transfer of power to the sovereignty of the people. Finally, we know that freedom will not be handed to us on a silver platter. It must be earned, and it comes at a price. Our people have already paid a heavy price. For 47 years, our movement has stood at the forefront of resistance against religious fascism. More than 100,000 of its members and supporters have given their lives for the cause of freedom. This struggle will continue until our country is liberated from the grip of the criminal mullahs. I have no doubt that victory is ours and that Iran will be free. Salutations to the people of Iran. Victory to Iran's democratic revolution. Long live the Democratic Republic.
Ladies and gentlemen, as Maryam Rajavi was talking about the future of Iran, she talked about freedom is earned and not delivered in a silver platter, and that is the history of Iranian resistance. So I am told we are expecting more members of Congress, so please bear with us as we welcome new members of Congress joining us for this event.
Even the regime admits its concern. Their own words confirm the resistance unit's impact.
یک مثلثی در این قضایا فعال بوده است. پادویش هم مربوط به سازمان منافقین بود. از ماه‌ها قبل اینا آماده بودند.
شما نمیتونید از یک جریان علیه انقلاب و عناد با نیروهای انقلاب یاد بکنید و جای پای جریان نفاق رو در اونجا نبینید.
در رأسش گروهک منافقین که بیشترین نقش رو در سازماندهی این حوادث او کار انجام میداد.
The regime strikes back with brutality. Thousands arrested, hundreds disappeared, lives lost in silence.
magnificent march of Iranians in Paris on the anniversary of the anti-monarchy revolution of the people of Iran. Demonstration in commemoration of International Women's Day. Woman, resistance, freedom. Free Iran demonstration on the 60th anniversary of the founding of the PMOI. Free Iran demonstration towards a democratic republic. New York.